Hi, I'm Willie. Welcome to my channel. Thank you for being here. I appreciate each and every one of you. If you're a new viewer, please go down and click that subscribe button. If you're a return viewer or subscriber, thank you very much. I do appreciate each and every one of you. And if you need IT consulting, go to williehowe.com, fill out that contact form, and someone will be with you as soon as possible. Now, if you've been following me on social media, you'll know that people want to know what's going into the rack back here in U21. So U22 is the PDU. U21 is blank. I temporarily had to put a UDM Pro and an Edge Router Infinity in. Now, this rack is actually completely for switching. So those other two devices are going to have to come out. But what's going in U21? Well, that's what I'm getting ready to show you right now. Since this is going to be a switching rack, you're going to get to see this thing get populated with racks over the next month or so. But when I saw this device, I was very intrigued by it. Now, get this shock out of your system. It is a Qnap device, but don't worry, I'm not leaving Synology. Synology is stronger than ever. Synology is not going anywhere with Willie Howe or Willie Howe technology at all. They are my storage solution. But when I saw that Qnap had a switch out, I was so intrigued that I reached out, and I want to thank Qnap for sending this over. Now, this is the Qnap QGD-1600P. And it is an Ethernet switch that has edge computing built in, right? So it's got 802.3 BT, which is PoE++. It's a fully managed layer 2 switch. It's got an HDMI port, USB 3, PCI extension where you can add 10 gigabit cards in the back. It's QTS ready. It's got an Intel Celeron processor. This one I believe has 8 gigs of RAM. They sent it to me with 8 gigs of RAM, which it's maxed out, so you're not going to run a lot. And then to complement it, I want to thank Seagate for sending out a couple 480 gig Iron Wolf SSDs to run in this. So, what comes in the box? Get the power cord, which we're going to need there. You get a quick start guide that we're going to use. This is the first time this has been out of the box. We've got our rack ears. We've got an Ethernet cable. And we have feet for the bottom. And then, of course, we have the switch itself. So let's take a look at this device. It's very intriguing. It weighs about maybe 15 pounds, but this is the device itself. You can see it's got some like nubs on the side so you can put it in a rail kit. And then on the front you can see it's got a status over here for your disk and for your host. It's got reset. It's got a couple SFP ports. It's got all the gigabit ports you get over here. Then you've got your PoE++. It's got the host port, USB, HDMI, and then you've got your status screen over here. Then, of course, there it says Qnap. Then on the back, you can see here's that expansion slot. And then over here, you've got your system fan, your power switch, and then your receptacle to plug it in. So what we're going to do is we're going to throw those drives in here, and then we're going to put the rack mount ears on, and then we're going to put this baby in the rack and get it fired up. Now, with everything that they claim that this switch can do, we're not going to be able to cover it all in one video, so I am going to break this up into a couple different videos. So we're going to put the drives in, and then we're going to run through the quick start guide. I'm super excited about this. This is going to be my top of rack switch, literally. So let me get things rearranged, and we'll get some drives put in this. All right, so the quick start guide shows us how to put the feed on, take the top off, put the drives in, and put everything back together. And then it also tells us where to plug our laptop into and how to do a basic setup on this. So what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to remove the screws on the back and the sides, and I'll give you a shot of this inside once I get it open. We'll mount the drives and we'll get going. All right, so that came apart just like a PC. This lid is on, it's slid forward like that. Take the screws out, take it back, Take it off. All right, here's what the inside of this looks like. You can see it's got a pretty large heat sink. Here's our memory here. Let's see. Here and here. Some status LEDs, power supply here. And then over here is where we actually put the drives. So, and then here, these are the PCI expansion slots. Like I said, drives go here. So I'm going to pop this out real quick, and I'm going to put the drives in. So, and it says to do that, let's see. Looks like I've got 3 screws I've got to take out, and then this just slides up. So we'll see what happens with that, and we'll be right back. All right, so after I removed the 3 screws that it said to, then the hard drive chassis came right out. So I'm going to mount the drives in here, and I'll show you the drives before I mount them back inside. So one thing that I found interesting as I was mounting the hard drives is this drive, the top drive, actually has to get installed upside down the way that everything goes into these adapters. So then when you look at the drives, you don't see the label on either. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put it back in here, right here, and then there's just a little slot, and now the drives are installed. They just need to be screwed down. So I'm going to screw the drives down, and then we will, I'll show you the inside of that, and then we're going to put the lid on, and then we're going to put the rack ears on. All right, so here's a real-world tip for you if you get one of these. Right here, you can't really see it really well, but the last screw is kind of in here, so you can't just put the screw in there. So what I did was I wasn't thinking, and I put these other 2 screws in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these 2 screws out, I'm going to put that one in and try to do that one first. All right, so before I put the lid back on here, this is what it looks like with the drives mounted. So I'll give you a shot. And if you're wanting to know, this looks like it's a Broadcom-based board. So now I'm going to put the lid back on, put the screws back in it, and then we're going to put the rail, or the rack mount ears on. All right, so here is what it looks like with the rack ears on. So we're going to get it put in the rack, and then we're going to go over to the Qnap website. We're going to learn a little bit more about it before we do our initial setup. All right, so I've already got the rack studs in here, as you can see, so it should be as easy as me going over there, grabbing the switch, putting the switch in, putting the caps on. Let's see what happens. Kind of a weird camera angle I haven't tried here before. Lots of firsts here tonight. Who'd ever thought the day would come when I would put a Qnap in the rack, huh? Alright, so there it is right there. Now, don't get too excited about these 2 because those have to come out because, like I said, this is a switch rack meant for switches and switching and all of the good things that go along with switching. And if you haven't tried, get a little closer here. Don't see anything happening yet. Push power here. Ah, got to push power. Then we get system booting. And this rack is on wheels, so I can actually turn this. And it says booting, starting system. Starting system. And over here it looks like it can see the sees the drives. Looks like we got a fan. So that's good that we can see our drives. And it still says booting, starting system. So while this boots, I am going to tie up my power cord. Alright, before we hop over to the computer, I just wanted to show you what it looks like here in the rack. Here we've got that LCD screen. We hit select, and it has NAS 444250. Apparently I'm thinking that that's some firmware there. Adapter 1 IP. Adapter 2 IP, 3 IP, switch firmware, switch management IP, model name, and press 2 seconds, go to main menu. So then, just one more quick overview of these ports. You've got HDMI, USB. Now this is the host IP, so that must be for the VMs. We'll find out. USB, you've got your PoE++, then you've got some other PoE ports, and then these SFP ports actually can be ports 15 and 16, so you can't use all 4 of those at the same time. Got our resets and our status lights. So at this point, I think it's time to hop on over to the computer and find out what the heck is going on with this thing. All right, so this is going to be just a real quick overview of what Qnap says this switch is available to do, or what it is capable of doing. So if we go over to the Qnap site, they've got a video on this. They talk about the PoE++ layer 2 switching, the QNet switch, which you can manage this just on the switch management IP, 2 SATA drives, PCI expandability for 10 gig network or wireless adapters, host containerized applications and virtual machines. So you can get this in 4 gig or 8 gig. This is the 8 gig. So they say that we can run it as a hybrid PoE switch, NVR router, AP controller, and there's all kinds of other things that come pre-installed. It's got the high capacity 60 watt PoE. We saw, we're going to see the QNet software, this management software. Talks about all the good stuff. So it's supposed to have a lot of the standard things that we're used to with layer 2 switches. And then here it talks about some of the things that we looked at. There's the memory, power supply. Here's, your BT, your plus ports. It says it's the first PoE switch with VM support. And so that's what they're kind of hanging their hat on here, is that you're going to run your AP controller, your router, everything right out of this box. I don't know if it's going to work. Like I said, we're going to have to do a few videos. They're saying you can power your cameras and run a surveillance software right on here. You can expand the storage. Here's what I found interesting, is that you can install router OS from MikroTik, OpenWRT, pfSense. So I'm assuming that we can do OpenSense, which is what we'll put on here. They tout running the unified controller right on it. And then you'll see the switch software. Here's our optional hardware. There's that rail kit. So I'll leave a link to this, as well as the Amazon affiliate links for everything that we're dealing with here tonight. But enough blathering on here. Let's hop on over and get to it. All right, so the quick start guide wants us to go to qnap.com/QFinderPro. When I do that, it tells me the page is depreciated and then sends me to the download center. So it wants to know what it is that we have. It's a switch. And ours is the QGD-1600P. And what we need, well, I think what we need, and maybe we don't really need this, since this is the first time I've ever deployed this. Maybe we don't need it, but let's see what we've got for the apps here. And this may be the wrong place. Yeah, we don't need that. So maybe QFinder's not the thing. All right, so what I actually did, instead of futzing around and trying to find some sort of a download utility, I thought, well, we'll just jump in, right? So this quick install guide was good for getting the hard drives in, good for getting the top off, not so good for discovering the switch. So what I did was I actually plugged an Ethernet cable from my network into ETH15, port 15, and now the switch has an IP address of 192.168.66.145. So we are actually going to pull that up here in the web browser and see what happens. All right, so loads the switch. This is pretty cool. All right, so thank you for choosing Qnap. Smart installation will guide you through the install process. It will take a few minutes. All right. So there's two. There's Smart Installation Guide or Switch OS QTS Hero. Let's do Smart Install Guide. So, so this is like setting up like a NAS. Oh, that's interesting. So what happens if I cancel this and go back? Let's do Switch OS QTS Hero. New edition of QTS. Oh, interesting. Okay. Well, we'll do the Smart Install Guide and see what happens here. So we're going to call this Qnap switch, and we're going to put in just the same lab password we use for everything else. Time zone. Let's do ntp.uiuc.edu. Test. Waiting. It's interesting that's taken so long. Oh, success. Okay. Next. And for now, we're going to go ahead and do DHCP. That's fine. Once we start putting other switches in here, we'll do static. Don't know. I'm just going to leave this for default because I don't know how much of a NAS we're going to use it as. And apply. Yes. So it's going to format the drives. We're going to continue. Yes. So it says it is applying settings. It may take several minutes. Okay. So it looks like it's cruising right along. We're at like 99% already. Well, those Iron Wolves are not slouches. All right, so looks like it got to 99%. Now it's gonna. This is probably where it's gonna hang up. 100%. Oh nope. See, it surprised me. There's a beep again. So let's see. Applying the settings. And I saw something about Plex, so maybe I'll move Plex off of my Synology onto this switch. Isn't that an interesting concept? Moving Plex to your switch. Interesting. It's applying all of our settings. While it does this, we're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. All right, we got some fireworks. Let's go to NAS management. See what happens here. We're going to log in. Now, this is not a normal NAS. This is a switch. Or a NAS with a switch with a NAS. Yep, we read all that. So now it's loading. All right, so here is our control panel. Let's see here. Apps, not super duper interested in that. I am interested in, okay, it looks like there's a new firmware. Well, let's update this. What's new? all kinds of things. Downloading firmware, 100%. Nope. Okay, so we're going to pause this and let this firmware update, and we'll be right back. All right, so it did its thing, and then it wanted to ask me, hey, are you sure you want to reboot? And I said, sure. Why not? Because if we don't reboot it, we're not going to get to use the newest version of the operating system. So it is rebooting, and once it's done, we'll be right back, and we'll take a look at this. So this switch is still rebooting. It's taken this has been about 10 minutes since it said it was going to reboot. So it is still going. Just wanted to check in, make sure you know we're still here. But as soon as it comes back up, we'll check it out. All right, here we go. And it says that the system is ready. We are on the latest operating system. It tells me that there are licenses available. Oh, what's new? All kinds of stuff apparently new here. Enhanced security. All kinds of new stuff. All right, tells me that we can get licenses for cameras, FAT, SSL, and McAfee. And I'm not going to show that again. And I'm not going to launch Help Center at the beginning. All right, but this is, HDMI display applications. So what can we display on the HDMI? Yeah, we agree. So with this HDMI port, we can do HD player. Transforms your Qnap into a powerful entertainment center where you can enjoy TVs, movies, music on your TV. Chrome, Clementine, Facebook, File Station, Firefox, LibreOffice, Surveillance Station, Music Station, QTS, QVR Pro, Skype, Spotify, TuneIn Radio, and Video Station. So we can use all that stuff through the HDMI port. That's kind of cool. Multimedia console is an app. Nope, we don't want to do any of that. We don't want to do any of that. We just want to take a look at the switch setup here. And maybe I'm not in the right place for that. Man, this thing sure seems like she's a little slow. Let's see. Okay. Network and virtual switch. Not sure if that's where this is at. Let's take a look. Welcome to virtual switch. All right, let's see. Close this damn thing. All right, skip. No, I don't need the overview. All right, so let's take a look. All right, so this is a damn good representation of the switch. Looks like we got VLAN QoS port trunking. All right, so QTS interface. All right, so here's the adapters that we've got in here. You can see this is 1 gig. Adapter 3 is 1 gig, except this has to be virtual because this is the only physical adapter that I have connected. So that's interesting. Wi-Fi. I don't have any Wi-Fi adapters in there, but it looks like you can put one in there. All right, let's take a look at our interfaces under network here. So switch configuration. Okay, it just brings us back here. I'm not going to run a DHCP server. I don't want DDNS. Let's take a look at what advanced is. Okay, here we go. So, yeah, inside the system you can see it's split up QTS and QNet switch. So we can do switch mode. What's simple mode? Okay, physical adapters here, virtual switches. Can do detailed mode. And we can do switch mode. Very interesting. Let's see. If we go back to our interfaces, we can come up. Man, to do anything, we got to install some apps. We do not want to display the quick start. I'm not sure what I need yet for the VLAN on this, or the QoS. Needs some sort of an app. QNet switch. So we need to install the QNet switch. That's probably what it wanted to load last time, and that other pop-up got in the way. Failed to install. Oh, we have to create a volume first. So let's see. Storage. And storage and snapshots. Yeah, that's fine. We'll let them do that. So we're going to create a volume here. Oh, we got to do a storage pool first. New storage pool. Next. And we'll just select both disks. We'll do a RAID 1. That'll be fine. And I'm just going to select the default stuff there. And just received a snap from my wife that says, "My son thinks that I almost look 50. Isn't that interesting?" So it's taken a few minutes, but it is going to create a storage pool, and then we'll create a volume, and then we should be able to install the switch software. So really, you can see that the underpinnings of this switch really rely heavily on the NAS, it appears. So we'll have to see how this works out. I'm going to let this play out, and we'll be right back. All right, so it finished creating the storage pool and wants to know if we want to create a volume. So we're going to do that. And let's see here. It's going to be a... Let's see. Do we want to do a static volume, a thick volume, or a thin volume? So it's multiple on-demand, supported. We'll do a thin volume. You must monitor usage space. That's fine. We'll monitor it. And we are going to do data volume 1, capacity. We should just, let's see, we got 258 gigs. So yeah, you know what? Let's not get greedy. We're just going to go ahead. We'll accept the defaults. Whatever the Qnap switch thinks is good. Good and dandy. We're going to do it. And it says that it is being created. And I see that it just went ready back here for the storage pool. Now it's creating default folders on the thin volume. Got a blinking red light. Now, data volume 1 is complete. So you also, I have never touched this switch until today, which I think this thing is definitely super interesting. So it's a concept. It's a really... let's see. It says that there's no volume. There is a volume. We created the volume. You saw it. I mean, here it is. Oh, it's still creating default folders, so I probably can't put anything on it yet. So, but I've never touched one of these until today. Like literally, when you saw me take this out of the box, that was the first time. So it's very interesting to me how the switch is totally dependent on the NAS side of this as well. So we're going to see how this is going to work out for us. This thing's still creating default folders. So I'm going to let it do its thing, and when it's done, we'll install the switch software and see what happens. All right, so I was sitting here waiting. There were some messages that popped up. I'm going to just minimize this, but it looks like our software went ahead and loaded, or something is happening here because we didn't get this display before. Now, look at this. MTU on these ports are set for jumbo frames automatically. That's interesting. Over here, you got a little slider for your PoE on or off. Port 1, I can't rename it. Speed, I can do all the things there from 10 meg half duplex all the way up to gigabit full duplex. I can change that MTU 1518 all the way up to 9018. I can do flow control. I unchecked that. Now here's something that's pretty interesting that I just noticed is as I've got this highlighted and I'm working on it, the switch up here is fading in and out to indicate which port I'm working on. So that's pretty nifty. All right, what do we got for QoS? So we can do port-based QoS. Ooh, look at this. Check this out. So here is the Qnap switch software. So let's go back to ports and take a look at this. So we've got down. Okay, so here it shows us the port numbers. 15, you can see link is up. If something's looping, it's going to be red. And as I mouse over these, you can see above that the port number lights up in yellow. So that's pretty nice. Port statistics. Received, transmitted, port configuration. So this is kind of what we were seeing on that last screen. Can easily turn ports on and off, change the speed, flow control. All right, PoE. So we've got consumption here. We can drill down into the port. Here's our power configuration. So you can see that those first 4 ports are PoE++. We can drop it down to PoE or we can disable it. Change to priority. And you get standard PoE or PoE+, on the rest of those ports. You can do PoE scheduling. That's kind of nice. All right, VLANs. Let's see how easy it is to add a VLAN. All right, port configuration top. We're going to do tagged on all these, tagged on all the bottom. I find it interesting the way that they split this switch up. So we'll go ahead and save that. So look, we've got VLAN number 2, and it is tagged. So that was easy enough. We've got lag groups, traffic, rate limiting. Oh, look at this. What can we do with this? Oh, look at that. Very interesting. So we can do all the rate limiting on those ports. That's nice. We've got security. Let's see what kind of ACLs we can add. Nice basic ACLs. IGMP snooping. QoS. Here we can do that port based or we can do VLAN based. So if we have voice, we could give that a different priority. That's interesting. We're going to have to dig into that. Yes, we want to leave without that. Here's port mirroring. We can do transmit and receive or transmit or receive only. That's nice. LLDP is enabled. So we'll have to plug a phone in and see if it detects a phone. Loop protection is enabled. So that's your spanning tree. Nice. All right, let's go to our overview. Oh, there's a new firmware for the switch. So the switch's firmware is independent of the main device. So let's go ahead and update the switch firmware. I'm going to let this run, and we'll be right back with you. All right, so firmware is up to date. So our main Qnap switch software, and I'm going to close this other software because we want to be running this Qnap switch. That control panel is still upset and hung up, so we're just going to ignore that for now. All right, so we're logged in as admin. Here's our overview screen. We've got our switch CPU. See, we're running at a cool 96 degrees Fahrenheit, which equates to 36 degrees centigrade. Here's our switch controller, our IP. You can see all the switch. This is the PoE status over here, but you can see we've got a link up on 15. We can change this to port status. Power device status. Oh, that's nice. VLAN status. So you can see VLAN 2 is on 16 ports. We don't have any private well, apparently there's one private VLAN. I didn't configure that, so it must come that way out of the box. Here's our LACP status. And we don't have any link aggregations right now. PoE power consumption, total use is 0 watts. And we can do current transfer speed. All right, devices. We can take a look at the MAC address table here, so we can scan. We can do wake on LAN. That's kind of nice. So back to our configuration here. Like I said, we've got our port status, which is nice. Port statistics. Port configuration. Here's our PoE. We kind of went through all this stuff again. I'm just looking to see if anything new's hopping out with that new firmware. Doesn't look like it. VLAN's a VLAN's a VLAN. There's our trunking group. Traffic, still the same. Securities, still looks the same. IGP multicast flood blocking there. Quality of service, port mirroring, LLDP. Yeah, we'll have to plug a phone into this into the next video and see what all it can tell us. We've got our system information here. It's got an Intel Celeron J4115 CPU at 1.8 gigahertz. The PoE controller is a micro semi. The switch CPU is a micro semi. It's got 8 gigs of RAM. And here's all of our other information. Got our settings here for the switch. Ah, I see. So the switch, so this is for the NAS, and the switch itself has grabbed that IP. So that's very interesting. So I'm super hopeful for this device that Qnap is going to do, you know, keep it up, and we'll see how it's going to be used here in the lab. So we're going to come back. We're going to do more videos on this. I'm got to play around with it a little bit more. This is literally, you're seeing it the first time that I am seeing it. So this is just a quick overview here. This thing is still stuck, which seems weird to me. So I'm going to kind of let that go. But we're going to, like I said, do more videos on this in the future. All right, so that's it for this video on the Qnap switch. Now, is this thing going to be something we add to the stable? Well, only time will tell. As we start doing more videos and things like that, and we see how it's going to hold up, it may be something that I end up recommending. I'm not 100% sure now. I am excited at the possibility that the possibilities that this switch brings. So we're just going to have to play around with it. We're going to put it in different scenarios. We're going to create quite a few videos with this. So stay tuned for those. And if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe. Please comment and share. Please follow me on Twitter and Instagram. If you need that IT consulting, head to williehowe.com. Fill out that contact form, and someone will be in touch with you as soon as possible. If you'd like to support the channel by becoming a patron on Patreon, and thank you to those folks, that link is down below. And all of our Amazon affiliate links are down below. They don't change your price, but they do kick a couple bucks over to the channel to keep some of this stuff kind of rolling in. I want to thank you again for being here, and as always, I'll see you in the next video.